Good evening. Welcome back to this presentation of the Issues Room here. Today is July 7th, 2026, and it's Tuesday. We're already in July. I'd like to welcome all of you here tonight um, to join us for a good conversation. Our conversation tonight will be centered around the environment, and I just want to, ask you to please share the link as we begin the conversation here tonight. And the conversation is square, um, put on the flooding, the increased flooding going on in West Africa, especially Liberia, Sierra Leone, Ghana, and Nigeria. Why these countries continue to experience serious flooding over the last months since the rainy season started. I think we all share the same kind of weather within the sub-region, especially that demarcation or geographical location, put it that way, within the confines of the West African sub-region, the coastal countries. So, good evening, welcome to the broadcast. I want you to please help me share the link. Tonight we're going to have a good conversation. We've done some extensive research. The other day, when we came live, we weren't sure what was happening. We started to experience a lot of, you know, dry air with a lot of noise. So I'm hoping that doesn't take place tonight. So just give me a minute. Let me just make sure that we're going live. All right, thank you very much. We've just clarified that everything is going well. So please help me share the link tonight. We appreciate it if you can do that for us. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you. The Issues Room is an alternative social media platform that comes your way on Tuesday, every Tuesday, once a week. And we come here to discuss the things that matter to our country, the sub-region, the diaspora, and so it's what we do, and we like to encourage you to like us, love us, and follow us. On Thursday, we bring you the Volcano Shelton Show, at which time we look at other issues, But again, thank you. Let me just quickly say that the game just ended with Switzerland beating Colombia in a penalty shootout. The entire game played 90 minutes and an additional 30 minutes, and of course, they went to the penalty kick, and Switzerland was successful. Earlier on, Lionel Messi scored his fifth goal in the World Cup. He had the opportunity to score two, but he missed the penalty awarded when they played Egypt today. Egypt, of course. Alfonso, please mute your uh, microphone yet. Um,
Mute me, Musa. I can.
so as I was saying quickly, that game ended in a 3-2. Surprisingly, Egypt was up 2-0. Imagine 2-0, and within minutes, I came back and I saw the score. I saw the score tie. I'm like, what happened here? Did Donald Trump call the referee or something? It happened so quick. But Messi came through. He scored a goal, and so now he's leading the pack with 8 goals to his record. As I said, he should have had 9, but he missed the penalty kick that was awarded during the game. I'm predicting Norway to carry it all. That's the team that I'm rooting for. So I don't know your choice, but don't blame me for it. I think Erling Haaland is one of the greatest goal scorers in this generation. He will pull his country through. So let's see when they meet the next um, competitor that they're going to be meeting. I know that France and Morocco will be locking horns, and so let's see how that goes. But in the meantime, all of the host nations are out of the tournament, so I'm not sure what the attendance will be, but I know that um, America is out, Canada is out, and Mexico is out. So again, The big dogs are still in the league. Alfonso, let me bring you in. Welcome to the Issues Room, the alternative social media platform here. We come your way every Tuesday, once a week. Welcome to the conversation tonight.
Thank you, Vagano. Thank you for having me.
Sorry,
Greeting.
you're still muted. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Vagano. Thank you for having me. Hi to our guests for sticking with us. And Vacano, I want to thank you very much for carrying the show for the last time that I wasn't here. It's been really hectic for me. These 3 4 months are the real hectic time of work for me at work. So thank you for carrying the show, and I'm glad to be back. Thank you.
All right, thank you too. But again, tonight we have a conversation. I'm sure you I were and acquainted with what the conversation is about, but you kind of wanted to um, kind of just gloss over the drug case. So if you wanted to just do a small summary, I'm not going into it in depth, but if you just wanted to do a small summary, I will allow you to tell the world where we are right now with the $19 million drug case. I've heard some things here, there, yonder, but it seems very sketchy. We're not sure where this is heading because it sounds like many of the guys who are supposed to be persons of interest to be arrested, some of them have absconded out of the country, and it's not making sense. So share your perspective, what you've heard so far.
No, thank you. I just wanted to, say that I'm happy. I'm delighted that at least some arrests have been made in the drug case. I think Mr. King and his agency handled the drugs, handled the why are we having issues? Are we having problems? Okay. Mr. King and his agency handle the transportation of the drugs. So it's important that they are being held and they are being investigated because they cannot tell us who gave them the shipment to ship out of the country. Why was the drugs in Mr. King's house? Whether he uses his house as warehouse for many other things that he ships. So I think we are at a very critical juncture. I'm also happy to have learned that the government of Liberia is not just stopping at arresting people in Monrovia like the couriers who transported the drugs to the airport or whatever the case may be, but are going beyond that and looking at the international implications of the drug trade in Liberia. Liberia does not produce cocaine. It must be coming from somewhere. Somebody must be sending it into the country, and then it must be headed somewhere. As in this case, it was headed towards an address, supposedly in the UK. So I'm delighted that the government is following the trail, the international trail of it. Um, it's my understanding that the director of police even went to the UK to talk with the UK authorities because there was a previous shipment through Liberia to the UK that was similarly packaged, that wasn't as thoroughly checked as this one. So who received it in the UK? So engaging the UK authorities to follow that trail, I think, is extremely important as well, because the way we can stop the tide of drug trade through Liberia is to really get to the bottom of it, and destroy those international networks that are bringing the drugs through the country. This approach is very different from what has been done previously by the previous administration, where they just grab a few people in the country, rush and prosecute them, and not go to the bottom. Because the people who the international drug trade is very sophisticated. They will find other couriers, they will find other people to use. So you have to use, it has to be, and quote unquote, all of the above approach, meaning that we now go to, we bring everybody on board, all of our international partners, to work together in fighting the trade. So I just wanted to make that point. Politics notwithstanding, there's a lot out there, or the vice president was seeing a photograph, so somehow he's involved in the drug trade. This person or the president's sons, but I'm hoping that by getting to the bottom of this thing, we'll be able to stop it and stop the menace of drugs that is really destroying our country and our young people.
But you quickly said that this has not been the first time. Do we know if it's still linked to the group now that they're looking at, or they have to do uh, I would consider, if I use the word right, a passive investigation, right? Because it's past, so that could tie into what is currently happening.
Yeah.
Anything you
So there's my information is that there's nothing tying people yet to the situation. But what it is that if you go to previous things with, like for instance, as I mentioned earlier, a similar package, who handled the previous package? Where did the previous package come from? Did they come from the same people who sent this current package? Is it a different group of people? By establishing that, you might be able to identify the source, the couriers, the places that is passing through, how they're getting it into Liberia, and how they're getting it out. I think one of the critical things that also happened is that Liberian security got a little sophisticated. And this time around, and said, no, we can't read this census, we can't read this thing through, but we've got to open it and check it. We can't just say because our census can't get through, then we let it go. I think that's another critical piece, and they must be applauded for that as well. But again, going to the bottom and going and enlisting our international partners is extremely critical because from my research and what I understand is that because the United States and Europe have really tightened their borders in terms of the drug trade coming from South America. The South American drug cartel is now trying to use West Africa. Has been using West Africa. Guinea-Bissau, for instance, is one of the places, and we've had some form of relationship from previous governments with Guinea-Bissau. Maybe that opened the corridor of the drug trade through Liberia, and so, following the path of the drugs from South America, if they're indeed coming from South America, how they enter West Africa, how they then come through Liberia, where they go to in Europe, is important because the Europeans can now pay an attention to it. Americans can pay an attention to it. Liberians can pay attention to it. And hopefully, we can minimize it, if not stop it at all.
But considering where we are with this whole thing, um, think about the guys who are doing this shipping and handling. Is it possible for you to just ship things without even knowing what they are? Is that a legitimate excuse? I mean, just thinking out loudly because this doesn't make sense. You can't be a courier or a shipping agency and just ship stuff. The material within the shipment has to be declared so that you know what you're sending. And for something to come all the way to your house, is it where it was finally packaged before, and it sounds like, yes, really, they've done it before. That's why they thought that it was going to, go through easily.
Yeah.
um, but with all the optics around it, you think that actually there's big hands in it from what you're hearing? Because, one of the things we need to be careful with is that when people are organizing themselves into making money, everybody wants quick bucks, and Liberia is of no exception. Everyone wants money. But when you think about the way people would test the system, it doesn't mean that the government could be involved. It doesn't mean that higher ups could be involved. It could be friendship kind of thing, and some of the people who letting things pass through may not even know what the heck passing through. Uh, but do you have any inclination from all that you've analyzed that some kind of big hands, like you talked about the people, the vice president, the president's son, and all these people, hands are in this drug business?
I think people need to be patient and careful. We all need to be careful how we make comments because some of these people who are saying these things might just be A, out of playing politics, or B, trying to distract from the real culprits and the real suspects here. Because so let's give the investigation a chance to unfold, and hopefully we'll get to the bottom of it. I think Everybody, many people who have said or made these allegations have said nothing convincing, in my view. For instance, journalist Rodney Sear went on Spoon Talk and said, "Oh, the vice president was in a photo with the man, so he must be aware of the drug dealer. He must come and explain himself." Well, Mr. Sear, you are a journalist. Did you investigate that photograph? Did you do any investigation? As journalists, what we should do when we make analysis about these things, what we should do is maybe go back. Where was this photo taken? When was it taken? What was the occasion? Where was it? Was the vice president and the people standing together by themselves, or was there a group photo? It turned out when the photo was reported, it was caught such that only the vice president and this man were standing in the photo. But it's many, many more people in the photo when the actual photo come up. That affects us as journalists if we don't do our homework and we get out there and say these type of things. Sooner rather than later, they don't believe journalists. So, oh, come on, man, this kind of people. And I always caution us: let's wait and let's follow the facts and the truth. There's nothing stopping a journalist or a media institution from doing their own investigation in this situation. We have that responsibility and obligation to do so. What we do not have a duty to do and what we must not do is to dwell on speculations and gossips because it muddies the water. Some people might be intentionally trying to really muddy the water of this investigation for their own reasons. One, because they think the investigation might point to them or people who they know, or for political reasons to score political points. We have to let the professionals do their work, and we can assist them in that regard. And I've always said, if you have any information, any evidence that any big shot is involved, then put it out there. There's nothing that prevents you from putting it out there and detailing the evidence. But mere speculation or allegations without facts and evidence could just undermine this investigation, undermine the prosecution and the fight against drugs. Take, for instance, the issue of jury. These people will go be taken to court. There might be a jury pool that's sitting in trial of them. If we throw all of these things out there, my parts in the jury pool, the jury will go now and say, "Oh yeah, man, a big shot involved. They're just hiding this thing," and acquit these people. Where do we go? There might be some people out there who are intentioned on doing that. We cannot support that. We must expose them, and we must say no. Let's give the professionals a chance to do their work.
But quickly here, I listened to the IG. And this is the final thought. I didn't think he came out strong. Um he's kind of stuttered. His presentation was flatlined. He came out, very limited in the context of a man with authority. I didn't like the presentation. It was sketchy. I don't know. What's your observation?
Here is my own view. The police director, my understanding is that he's a technocrat. He's a technical person. He runs the police. He's supervising investigation, etc. In my view, if I were making a decision, if I were advising the government, what would have I would have said is that the charges and the reasoning for the charges should have been announced and presented by a prosecutor, either the Minister of Justice, the Solicitor General, or somebody who knows the law and will be prosecuting the case. When you have an investigator coming up and announcing these things, who is not very au courant with it, and who is doing the investigation and therefore is trying very hard to protect his technical investigation, I think you end up where your observation leads, which is I agree with you. That's your observation, but he was trying very hard to protect the investigation that he's involved in. So I think we should have put it in the hands of a lawyer. What should be happening is once the technical people do their investigations, whatever they find out, give it to the prosecutors. So prosecutors can then go ahead, sift through it, and announce charges and go step by step detailing why these charges were brought. I think the prosecutors, the lawyers will do a good job at doing that. Then the policeman who is a technocrat, who is an investigator. So I think your observation was on point, and I agree with you. And I hope they can, because this is it's a joint security investigation. The Justice Ministry is the head of joint security. So the Justice Ministry should be. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day and said, imagine this was under Samuel Doe. How former late Justice Minister Jenkins KZB Scott would have announced this. You need the drama in it. You need the force in it because, again, you want to convince the public and you also want to sell your case to the jury as well. So I hope going forward they can take this advice and do that.
Thank you, Alfonso. If you just joining us, welcome to the Issues Room. Alfonso Yeno, Volcano Shelton here. Both of us are bringing you the conversation here this evening. But our crust of what we wanted to talk about is the serious flooding now occurring across West Africa as our topic of discussion here tonight. We just wanted to gloss around the case of the $19 million drug case in Liberia. And Alfonso diligently provided some insights as to where we are and where we're going and the patience he's asking the public for. But Alfonso, it's been months now since the rainy season started, and it has been very, very torrential across many of our West African oceanside countries. You're talking Liberia, you're talking Sierra Leone, you're talking the Ivory Coast, you're talking Ghana, you're talking Nigeria. But lately, Ghana, of all places, has taken center stage. From the research, it talks about the heavy flooding is an occurrence of the current climate. The climate is moisturizing so much that due to the global warming, when 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 it rains, it pours. I don't know if you know that saying.
Yep.
And so why these floods? Because countries beginning to develop, but they're not planning in the context of engineering.
Yes.
Everyone buy the land, they build as they want to build. People are building in swamps, people are building in alleyways, people are building in waterways, people are erecting structures that don't meet standards and code, and everything is just jing jang. The country, Ghana, Accra, developing at a proportion that everyone is happy about, but beware, because all this happiness, you run into Ghana. Today, Ghana is underwater. Many of Accra is underwater. It took the president to fly. We'll go to the video. But there's a lot of reasons for this. And what's your perspective? I mean, think about it. Liberia is of no exception. I can talk about many of the reasons and then you can address them. The flooding is attributed to poor drainages. The flooding is attributed to garbages that people use to clog the drainages. The flooding is the backfilling of swamps that's supposed to be the absorption sponge for wastewater, so they don't have nowhere to go and they just stay with us. The flooding is because people are building below water level, low foundations. They can't afford, but they want to build a home, and they buy the land during dry season. They don't know that that place is going to get flooded. So a lot of factors involved. And I think one of the critical pieces that I kind of observed is the overpopulation of these cities. Every infrastructure, rather, every locale, every community can only take so many people. Any community, any home you build. That is why in America they have what? The occupancy code. They have the fire code. If you go to a hall, they say only 200 people. Best pushing it, maybe 205, 210. Anything beyond that could cause chaos. But unfortunately, in Africa, we don't set those standards. We just want to build. We just want to build. We just want to come in the city and everybody. Imagine 1.5 million people in Monrovia that was built for only 500,000 people. That's stretching. That's pushing all of the infrastructure within the city. Where all that waste going, are going to go when we don't even have the facility to kind of manage the waste? So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out as you.
Yeah, no, you hit three, four key factors that are leading to, you hear the three, four key factors that are leading to the flooding in West Africa. Take you, one of the key things you mentioned is, you know, let's look at Monrovia. When Monrovia was designed and constructed initially, it wasn't meant for 1 million people. It wasn't meant for 2 or 3 million people. So the drainages, where the water goes, where it flows, where we put our waste, and all of that was not designed for 3 million people. Now, our swamps. You mentioned the issue of swamps or wetlands. Take that river, the Mesurado River. I think it's called the Mesurado River. Take that river for example. That is a natural. That's a natural gift to us to serve as absorption of waters that's flowing down, and to also serve as drainage for the whole area. Unfortunately, let's go to waste management.
And quickly, the Stockton Creek also serves
Yes.
that entire slipway all the way behind Lac Bassi. All the
Yeah.
matter of fact, you see right across from the Providence Island. That's
Yeah.
that wetland that we are saying he was going to call Bali Island and build. This will be
Yeah.
riding boat and going. Man, listen,
Yeah.
did it do
We
feasibility
have, we
study?
have, no, they never did. They didn't even know. Hey, people didn't even know that is a Ramsar protected wetland. That area is protected. It's an internationally protected wetland under the Ramsar Treaty for several reasons. It has a lot of protected species in there. It has the dwarf alligator. It has the African Nile alligator. It has a bird species. It got certain tree and bird species in there. So it's a internationally protected wetland. I'm assuming we had then realized that later on after they made their pronouncement that whether they didn't even move ahead. I'm hoping that that's what the situation is. But in addition to that, and in relation to the flooding that we're talking about, that is a natural habitat for drainage and absorption. That particular area, that whole wetland. But when we build in places like Clarita and other places in those wetlands, when we throw dive from behind, how they call that place, behind Del Observer and all of that, because when it rains, all that water from up the hill there goes into that river. It's supposed to drain it into the sea and all of that. But when we throw dirt in it, when we go, people throw all that dirt in it, the waste all in there, it's not flowing, it's blocked. So when it rains heavily, which has been happening in Liberia and West Africa, what happens? The water simply overflows. It has nowhere to go because
And let me just add, it's like a commode that
yes,
is clogged. If
thank
the
you.
commode is clogged, the drain pipe is clogged,
Yeah.
anything that goes in there will
It comes
overflow and it will spill all on the floor. That's
So
what is happening. That's a
that's what's
classic
happening.
example.
Absolutely. So when you have rain now, with the heavy rains that we're having now because of climate change, it has nowhere to go. So it goes into Clara Town, into Doe community, and it continues into Vi Town, and it goes all the way to Freeport, all of that. That's what's happening. So the three key factors that you name are exactly what happening. Climate change, which means that we're now getting a lot of rainfalls in the area, that, especially in places that didn't have that before. We didn't do proper planning of these cities and towns. People just building. We don't have enough or sufficient drainage facilities. We're not doing sufficient waste management. It's not planned. We're throwing waste wherever, and therefore the water has nowhere to go. So then what it does, it comes into our homes and into our communities. And we need to, those are the three key factors we need to address. We need to address climate change, however way we address it. We need to address waste management, so people are not just throwing waste anywhere. You go to Monrovia, even in the drainage, in the streets and in the community, they throw waste there. They built in alleyways and drainage. And when you go remove them, they say, oh, they're removing people from stuff. Now, when it rains, it comes into their homes and breaks their homes down. Severe, very critical, important information needs and education, I should say, need to be undertaken by government, but also by community people, by us, to inform our people that look, there's a reason why you shouldn't build here, because when you build here, you will get affected, your neighbor will get affected. Don't allow anybody to come and build in this swamp or this alleyway because it will left to, go to Sunny Wayne. That drainage they put there. They used to go and take that and throw it inside there. That's the
It's not
reason why
used to.
it's still
It's
happening.
happening. That's why there's a lot of backup water. But
Yeah,
when you think about the education piece, I think another component of all of this is the enforceability piece. You can you can't have these surveyors just finding places and selling it, or people who claim to own the land and call the surveyor who should know better and say, hey, no, 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 this place I don't think is for sale. I don't think the land belongs to you.
yeah,
I'm going to report it to the land authority. We're going to do thorough scrutiny. This place should be probably for government. Take for instance the Pagos Island. The Pagos Island is what you can hear them say Pagos, but it's
mm,
Pagos Island.
mm,
Uh, is that whole belt behind what they now call the Peace Island.
yeah,
All of that area was Pagos Island historically,
yeah,
behind the ministerial complex. That was a natural habitat. When I was growing up, they had the mangrove monkeys, the crocodiles, and all of those animals live in that area. And that area was also considered a part of the heavy rain that I mean the heavy water that come through the Stockton Creek. We
hmm,
empty in there, sit there, and dissipate after time, and then we'll go there to go pick the kiss me. If you know what the kiss me is, you put your stuff in your
absolutely.
palm butter and you suck it, right?
Yeah,
But today, and anytime human being occupies a place, there is a high probability that place becomes corrupted.
yeah,
That place loses its ability to be natural. And that is what happening. These places cannot be natural now because we make more dirt, we create more problems, and that is why it is now backing, what we call backfiring on us. And as a result, every day you hear them, government, please come to our AO. Please come. What are you calling government for? You willingly did what you wanted to do. The same government comes back and say it's wrong. We're gonna demolish. Then you cry. Then when the rain not when God's natural rain comes, you cry. What can we do? What can we do? But I just wanted to put through this out. Let's catch this glimpse of what happening in Ghana quickly. I have some clips here, so let's go to one of these clips and then we'll discuss. As you can see, how Ghana, the very Ghana everyone is bragging about, the development, the pace of development. It sounds like people who just want to be the shining light. And you know something, quickly before I go to that clip, I'm contemplating what Dubai will be someday. That daring engineering they did by using sand and rock to fill in the sea and build in the sea the Palm Jumeirah Island and all these places. Imagine what will happen. All of those places will get sucked, will vanish over time. All those high rise, can those things, can because it's desert sand, is it able to hold that weight over the years? So all of these quick building and modern uh, engineering that people want to showcase that the country is moving, is catapulting into modernization, it can backfire, and that's what is happening now in Ghana.
and real quickly before you go to the tip, I just wanted to say that a lot of people think that development is about putting up big shining buildings. It's more than that. And that's what we're experiencing here now. When you go in a community to build, there's certain factors that must be taken into consideration. Is there the drainage system that will drain the water out so your place is not flooded? And are we putting those? Is water sitting around? It's not just flooding. Look at malaria. If you get water sitting around people places, then malaria and other, mosquitoes breed, and we get malaria. There are other diseases. We get typhoid and all of that. And these are some of the things that are affecting us today. Typhoid, malaria, people are dying, and all of those stuff. So development has to take the human beings' welfare into consideration, not just beautiful shining buildings. And to do that, we have to put eh, the the the, the sub the sub level infrastructure. such as drainages and other things in place to make sure that those buildings that are put up are not just white houses around the place. But yeah, let's go to the clip. Yeah. Yep.
Flooded areas. Unfortunately, the flooding has been very extensive today for several reasons. One, the recorded rainfall today is one of the highest in several years. The Meteo uh,
In the year
looking at
25,
approximately 140 millimeters that was dumped on Accra.
thank you. Let me
Last
start
year, the
with
maximum
that.
rainfall was 56 on a single day, and so the volumes are much higher. And so there are many issues to the flooding in Accra. There's climate. If you look at the rainfall pattern from 2024, 2025 to 2026, you see that increasingly every year we're getting more rain in Accra than we used to get. GMET say that in 2024, for a period of 30 days in June, we had 85 millimeters of rain. And then in 2025, it increased to 172. And then in 2026, for the same 30-day period in June, it increased to 333. And so the waterways are not getting chance to recover before more rain is dumped. And the wet days are more. Out of 30 days, 22 days, it kept raining. And so there were only 7 dry days or 8 dry days in June. And so that's the climate side. That is an act of God that we can't control. But then there's also the engineering and the man-made causes. That is, like I said before, Accra is built between two natural bodies, the Kwapim Mountain Range and the Atlantic Ocean. And before Accra was built, the streams used to flow through this plain to reach the sea. Now, the British brought the capital to Accra, and in those years it was not a problem because Accra was a very small city. But as the population continues to increase and people continue to build, it restricts the path of the streams on their way to the Atlantic. So that's an engineering problem. We need to see how to open the channel so that the water can pass. But then there's also the other aspect, which is attitudinal and human behavior. That is dumping garbage in the drains, putting all kinds of items in the drains after we finish creating waste instead of sending it to the appropriate place. Even in the air, we discovered many illicit dumping sites where the wetlands are. People have gone to create a waste dumping ground, and they charge 20 cedis for the Abuwea to come and fill the waste into the wetlands. And when it has filled sufficiently, they sell the land to people to come and build on it. And so we need to, one, look at it from an engineering perspective in terms of how we can open up the channels, but at the same time, look at how we can identify all the buildings that are obstructing the waterways.
So you hear that, and that's coming from President Mahama, right? The guy who is the president. He decided to take a tour and just look to see what's happening. And now the discovery here is that the British built Accra, like we talked about Monrovia, similar thing, right? They built Monrovia as a small place to accommodate the people at the time, not contemplating urban sprawl. Now Ghana too came, and even though that was on the books, and you would think that they would have done even better than us in this modern day and age. But again, that happy, let's develop. He said it right. The mountains and the ocean. The water comes from the mountain, it has to go to the ocean. But the pathway, all this development has been put in the pathway. Not only that, the engineering behind it, they did not consider putting waterways that will, channel the water into the ocean. But then not only that, people now are backfilling swamps like we talked about. Take
Yep.
all the dirt and go and set the land and say you can't build here. You
Yep.
building on mud or you building on trash? What type of building is that? So this problem is not just unique to Liberia. When they keep crying for the government, the government, the government, it is also happening in the very Ghana everybody's running to. Let me hear your perspective quick, then we'll go to the next clip.
I think President Mahama hit the nail right on the head. And these are some of the things that you and I talked about before. Similarly, when Monrovia was built, it was a small place intended to accommodate people. I think part of our problem is that as our cities and communities are developing, we don't have that enforcement mechanism. We don't have that structure and that system that tells people you can't build here. You can in the United States and many places now. I'm not saying flooding doesn't happen here in the United States and European countries, but one of the things that helps them is that houses are not necessarily built by individuals. So they're built by companies. And those companies must follow certain codes and stuff. And there's certain regulations. So it's difficult for an individual to go and take a piece of land somewhere and dump it and cover a swamp that's supposed to serve as a drainage and build a house. As President Mahaman was talking, one of the things that was coming through my mind is yes, the British built it. The British built it at a time for themselves and whatever. They didn't anticipate what they should have done. But the British have been gone for how many years now? When did we realize that Accra was built like that with the mountains and the drainages and and all of that? When did we realize that? What have we done since to mitigate that, to make sure it did not, the situation we're facing now did not happen? Of course, we can't blame climate change on them because climate change is a contributing factor, but we knew decades and decades ago where Accra was built. What have we done to enforce our drainage system to make sure our drainages are clean so that the water flows into the sea and and the drainages are not backing up? Similar question for our authorities in Monrovia. What have we done to prevent that? Look, every day I sit down for candle and I think about this. I think you said Stockton Creek. You're probably right. I was saying the Maserati River, but the Stockton Creek, that creek.
No, no, no. They both meet. So
Oh, okay.
Maserati River comes from the ocean
Yes.
behind the Viton area,
Okay.
and then when it gets to Providence Island, that small narrow channel
Yeah.
that passes through the island and Slipway turns into the Stockton Creek, and
Thank
then
you.
it continues on.
Okay. Great. That is a gift that God gave us to take our water and put it into the Atlantic. What have we done with it? I'm thinking every toll booth you go through in Pennsylvania, in New Jersey, in Delaware is owned and operated by the Delaware something toll authority. They dredge those rivers and maintain those bridges. Delaware, New Jersey, NJ, New Jersey, Delaware Port Authority. What is our port authority doing? If I were working at Port Authority, advising the Port Authority, would be dredging that river, that Meserado Stockton Creek River. If you dredge it, that deck that is now clogging that river for which water is now flowing, it will flow. The Port Authority can even operate that river and make money from it like these people are doing right now here. These are things that our institutions and agencies could be thinking about and doing. So, but we can't wait until a flood happens or a disaster happens. We know the problems, like what President Mahama just did. He just told us what the problems are. But these problems have been known. What we want to know is solution. We don't want to know the problem. We already know the problem. We know where Accra was built. Who don't know that? Everybody knows where Accra was built. Everybody knows that when Accra was built for a less number of people. Similarly with Monrovia, we know where Monrovia is built. We know Monrovia is almost surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean. We knew that. We know that That particular river, the two rivers are supposed to serve as our drainage for our city. We know that. We what have we done about it? What are we doing about it? Are we waiting until a flood happens? Then we go and announce, oh, this is a problem, this is a problem. I think that's not sufficient. And that's
But
where our problem lies.
yeah, but Alfonso, when you think about it, our governments, they don't know what priorities are. It's all about the big salaries. The last time I talked about it on the Volcano Shelton show, we run a government just to pay salaries. We don't put monies in the budget to maintain our livelihood, the way we should live, the things that matter. We don't. Everything is about budget, budget, budget. Like I said, why is LBS, a small little entity that can barely raise its own money because of the media competition now in the country, has all these director generals, I meant to say, deputy director generals. Each of those people could be pulling $3,500 plus amenities, with demand for car, with demand for gasoline, with demand for stipends. Why? Why do you have LBS with all these director generals? When I work at LBS, we only had two deputies, right? The director general, the deputy for administration, and the deputy for broadcasting.
Mhm.
Every component of broadcasting, both radio and television, was under the deputy for broadcasting, including engineering.
Yeah.
Today, you have an engineering deputy, you have a name branding, media and rebranding rather, deputy, you have public affairs deputy, you have administration deputy, you have rural broadcasting deputy. What all of this for? What all of this for? So we put too much money into salaries, into expanding government just to pay salaries, so we cannot do anything. We can't even address the fire situation in the country. We can't address the drainage and the flooding in the country. We can't address any doggone thing. We can't even address the 19 million drug kids right now, because they don't have the sophistication of equipment to really, really do the forensic that they need. They have to outsource, bring people in. Why are we considering ourselves a country and a government when we have not been able to prioritize? This is what it is. And so even Muhammad, who is saying this, should have known better. When he was inheriting this country, he should have known that, yes, I'm inheriting all of this. This is not new phenomena. The flooding in these places have been coming slowly, but now it's palpable. What I remember the last time I was in Liberia during the Christmas New Year, it was still raining and raining heavily, Alfonso, heavily, that it created flooding. Another thing I observed while I was in Liberia, people are taking sand from in the neighborhood. They don't want to go and buy sand by the truck for the sand to be delivered, so they're scraping all in the neighborhood. The sand that the rainwater brings, they scrape it and they're building with it. They have a way they will sift out the sand, take all the debris and use that sand. But what they're doing, they're undermining the digging in the area, and then it creates the hard clay dike, and the clay dike cannot absorb the water. The topsoil should be absorbing the water. All of these things we're creating for ourselves, but the government itself creating more problem by the expansion of employees. You want to create a big government and nothing to serve in terms of infrastructure, national interest, in things that are supposed to make us a nation to survive within the confines of being a nation. We do everything and put it into salary. One person, one senator takes all that money home, he takes all that amenities home, and they're still asking to increase the Senate number. They're still asking to increase representatives because they find it as a cash cow. This is what we're dealing with as a people and as a country. And we have a lot of Liberians who should be looking at this stuff from a lens of their own interest. No, it's all about politics. What they do, they run around. Right now, everybody chasing 2029. Everybody wants to be president. The so-called opposition gather and say they're celebrating CDC. It's just too much mess. And how we're going to fix this? You can say all these good things until the government shrinks, until the government put money into the areas where it really needed, so that we can change the trajectory. We will just have this conversation year in and year out. But that's where I wanted to throw my thoughts.
And you are correct. No government, big government, never solves the problem of any country. Government cannot be the one hiring everybody and doing everything in a country, particularly in a capitalist country as Liberia. In communist countries, they try for the government to own everything and to operate everything, and they failed. There's no real communist country in the world anymore. Everybody is now gravitating or has gravitated significantly towards a form of capitalism that also focuses or that includes private ownership and business and enterprise. And that's two places that I think our governments should focus. One, how do we expand the private sector so that everybody is now running toward government, so that government is not so burdened in terms of hiring everybody that's looking for a job. That's a critical place to go. The second thing that I think government needs to consider as well is the role of state-owned enterprises. What is their role? Are they meeting their obligations? What are they doing? They were created for two main purposes: to provide services to the citizens on behalf of the government, the services that government has a responsibility to provide to citizens, and to also generate revenue, And these are critical points. What revenues are our state-owned enterprises generating, and how are they investing that revenue into the communities and into government programs and supporting government programs, but also undertaking stuff. um Philadelphia, the how they call that place, the bulwark, around the river there, in the place where they got the Spirit of Philadelphia and everybody's something and going. It's operated by the Port Authority of Philadelphia. A lot of people are hired not by the Port Authority directly, but through that enterprise that they created there. There are businesses with boats sitting on top of the river as nightclubs, as restaurants and stuff. You know, can the Port Authority, the MPA, can other agency, can a combination of LPRC, Port Authority, Water and Sewer do
So
this?
stop right there. Stop
Yeah.
right there.
Mm,
So the Port Authority, all they want to do, service containers.
yes.
They put high price up there. You send one container, you gotta literally die before you free the container. They put corruption fees, and that's all they're doing. That's all the Port Authority does. Nothing else. Bunch of criminals working at the National Port Authority, creating a stagnation for the economy, and the president just appoint anybody, throw them there, and with no experience, no background. I don't even know who this guy called Sekou Dougle is. The Port Authority is a waste sector in the country, honestly, because it's not helping the economy at all. If this is the place where they pass the drugs, then that's a problem. So they're not doing the job, to be frank. So yes, the institutions we have were established for certain purposes, but they've deviated from those purposes because of political patronages, and as a result, no one is held accountable. So people just go to a position, and that's it. No check and balance. No one following up. And they run for 6 years, and they go back into the cocoon with all their loot and their gains, and then when the government is out, they turn into opposition because the money is dissipating, so they want to come back and they make loud noise again. So this is the constant issue that we have to deal with, Alfonso. So yes, no institution is functioning within the confines of the TOR term of reference, however you want to call it, the memorandum of whatever, the formation, why they were established, the act of enactment of whatever. They're not functioning within that confines, and it's everybody just doing what they want to do, and we say we're running your government, and then the president struggles, and then he calls a cabinet meeting and say, oh, some of you here, you're not doing your thing, you're not pulling your weight, but if you don't pull your weight, I will reshuffle. Then we hear that one, we say, okay, we're waiting for the reshuffle can come, and that's all it's going to be. 6 years we're going to go by and we'll barely see anything happening. Even the very thing that we're doing right now, we say we're building an overpass. For me, who has an engineering mind, I'm nervous with this overpass. This overpass is being built in a corridor that is overly populated. There isn't any leeway, no wiggle room. The ministerial complex and all of the businesses they allowed, like the ShopRite, the Winners Chapel, and all these things they allowed to build along that path. You can check barely 100 feet between the two. Then you put in an overpass. In case of a crisis, where are the corridors? Where do people go? So we just do these things thinking that we trying to modernize and we want to copy as a result of what our counterparts are doing, but we don't look at the ramification and the unintended consequences and things that will happen in the long run. So I'm worried. I'm worried about the engineering. I'm worried about the durability. I'm worried about all these things because that corridor will be used, overly used, because it's one way into the capital. You and I know we were born and grew up there. We're there all the time. It is one way. Many people don't use the Japanese freeway or the former Somalia Drive. Everyone wants to use the Tottenham Boulevard. So it's just one way in. So the stressor, imagine when the infrastructure of that magnitude is built, it has to what we call condense. It has to heal. That's the word I wanted to use, the engineering word. It has to heal, but it's not going to heal. They're going to run right into it, and the stressor and some of those steel rods within there. I saw some of the steel rods. There's the size of my pinky finger. I'm worried about all of these things, and that's why we just want to do things, but we're not contemplating the long haul.
And you make a very important point, Volcano. In this country and in many other countries, well, particularly in developed areas, there are even restrictions and regulations in terms of the use of bridges and roadways and all of that. They would say this road, only certain ton of vehicle or truck can go over it. They would say this bridge, you cannot go over it. They got weigh stations in this country where when a truck is going through, they weigh the truck to say, hey, do you meet the tonnage requirement before you can go over this bridge, before you can go. So I understand the point you're making. Who's going to regulate the tonnage of vehicles that go over that apply that overpass bridge? And if it's overly used and if it's abused, it might collapse again. So again, we go back to regulations and enforcement. Regulation and enforcement are critical. Are we now going to say, okay, trucks? And somebody and I were having a conversation the other day. When we get these containers go into Monrovia at the Freeport, why are we allowing trailers from the Freeport to get on major streets in Monrovia, drive to Broad Street, drive to Benson Street, and all of that with those big trailers and stuff? Why don't we have maybe dry ports, places where they take the goods from the Freeport, they take it to somewhere in Town or somewhere in Douala or something, and then smaller vehicles that have that meet the weight requirement to ply those streets that will now clock up and create traffic, then transport the goods to the stores and deliver them. For example, that's something that the city corporation can
But
fly around.
Alfonso, don't you know that many of these people just come to the job to steal? They come to the job with no ingenuity. They come to the job not coming to analyze and say, okay, this place is messy. Let me put it in the kind of context so that it functions the way it should. It's the thing is, it's what I would consider. We made it like that. We'll leave it like that.
Yeah.
Because the very people who are in these places to tell you that America thing, don't bring it here. Don't
Yeah.
come change everything here. You come with the vigor to want to ship things so that it conforms to the integrity of the international world. No, they don't want it. They don't want it. And so sometimes the diaspora folks' hands are tied. Or the people who really went to school and want to showcase their abilities in terms of revamping and restructuring things, they're met with stiff resistance by the internal stakeholders who are on the grounds. Don't bring down your American thing here. Don't bring down your thing from somewhere else. So they come to this position, they just come there lackadaisically and lay back because there's no check and balance. Nobody gives a crap until a wildfire of corruption, come about. Then people start turning their eye there, and the Liberian man. Anywhere he goes, he first asks the question: "Is chopping there?"
Yep.
Is chopping there? Who wants to go to anywhere no chopping? Even the LRRC got chopping, but the way that the LRRC budget is so small, and they're not bringing in the international partners are not throwing in bags of rice and all of those things. So it will appear that no chopping there, but chopping there. Fire service with 2 fire trucks in the whole country. They send somebody there. I won't go there. No chopping there. So they say LPRC, National Port Authority, Ministry of Finance, as if to say the Ministry of Finance is a chopping ground, when the Ministry of Finance is only about documentation. The Ministry of Finance is not keeping money in there, but they're able to play the trick and get, but that's the society. So how do we address this kind of nonsense? But just before you come in, let me play 1 or 2 more clips just so our viewers can understand the mammoth happenings around West African sub-region, especially our coastal cities. This is Sierra Leone.
You remember our village, eh? Our village now remember too. Francis. Francis, how we inside it? The well all not full of.
So let me go to another one. I think this one is our own Liberia. This is absolutely interesting, my brother.
I tell you.
June 22nd, and this is how some part of Moria looks. This is the Old Road Junction, around the Old Road Junction. When you are from the Old Road side, past the Kalano Hotel, and then you try to get on the main road. Those of us that are going to town, we can just cross, and we can get vehicle to drop us to town. Before you get on the main road, you have to walk into this water. I'm sure some of these things are caused by the drainages that are blocked. Other ways are blocked. So I don't know how to get to town this morning, honestly. I'm going to try this.
So that's Monrovia,
Yeah.
and I know the area very well. So that area has been a swampy area. You know, across is where the old Ellie Mills Scarborough,
Hmm.
and that area is very swampy. It's a wetland,
Yep.
and where George Weah went and built the Invincible Park, that place was thick white sand, the IE practice ground. So when the water's coming from like around the airport, the Spriggspain airport, or around Vermoma House, it used to get absorbed in that sand. And then a little bit would cross through the Oro under there and continue in the swamp behind
Yeah.
the Oro side in the Congo Town area.
Towards the sea. Yeah.
So the man went and built an invisible park and blocked the entire place. No engineering, no thought as to, what damage that would have caused, as we're talking about. There is an engineering blundering that can be responsible for some of these things. While it was a good intent, there are many other best places the park could have been built. Or I call it a playground because it's not a park, it's a playground. And unfortunately, they blocked that entire area. So all of the water now is backing up through the small drainage they built, and the drainage goes under a place where they have a car wash, and then it just sits there, and then it backs up and come back on the main road, and that whole area. Now that area used to get a little bit of flood, but it was not to the point where the depth now is almost at the windshield of cars, and that's what we're talking about here. All of these things are the reason. Look at Sierra Leone.
Yep.
Kids are in that water, adults are in that water, reaching them all the way to the chest. The water is red and dirty. Alligators could be in there. Snakes could be in there. It's so dangerous. I would not even risk myself being in that kind of water. But this is the situation. And it's not just happening for Liberia. It's happening in Ghana, as you saw. It's happening in Sierra Leone. And it's also happening in Nigeria. I have a clip for Nigeria. But but think about it, Alfonso. What are we going to do about this? Because it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. We also see flooding here in America. As sophisticated as it is, we have flooding right here in America, right? But we're doing too much with keeping our cities clean, putting the trash the way it is. Government needs to put a lot of money into the city corporations and operations. That is why it's important for these ordinances to be implemented and held in place. But it's also important for us to move away from political appointment of our mayors, of our superintendents. Let the people hold elections so that they can move these people, because some of them, they just come there and chill. We had Jefferson Koji said he was not a dice ball. He wore his suit and his bow tie, and he ran around for 6 years, and the dice piled up to a heap of the Tower of Babel. So political appointment sometimes don't fix these things. When the people are involved in their own community, they're able to address some of these things. It's just my thought.
Oh no, and that's a perfect thought. Very, very perfect thought. Some of us have advocated for decades and continue to advocate that one of the ways to improve government service delivery is to involve people, local communities, and people in the process. And one of the ways to do is to have people elect their local leaders. And I've argued vehemently on this issue. I've written papers on it, for instance. City mayors should be elected. In fact, our law requires that city mayors be elected. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court decision kind of undermined that. Some of our read papers and stuff when late President Sawyer ran for City Corporation of Monrovia. The laws never changed after that election. There were elections of other city mayor positions before. So nobody went back and rewrote the law after that to say, oh no, city mayors should not be elected. The law remained the law. So city mayors are actually supposed to be elected, save that unfortunate decision made by the John and Lewis Supreme Court under President Ellen Sirleaf that city mayors should be appointed. And I'm
But
hoping.
even it started with what's his name, Amos Sawyer. He
Yep,
appointed what a guy named Johnson. You
yep, yep.
remember?
Mhm.
What's his first name? I forgot. I'm a
Uh,
man.
Daniel Johnson.
Daniel Johnson. Daniel Johnson. Yeah, yeah. DJ passed. You know that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But here's what Daniel Johnson did, and I was coming to that. Daniel Johnson didn't have money. There were no resources in the country. The interim government didn't have money. In fact, Daniel Johnson got appointed to the Monrovia City Corporation because of the initiative that he took after the war. He went around Monrovia, mobilized community people to start cleaning their communities on a voluntary basis. And then approached Self, that was distributing food, Plumber Nelson and other people, and said, these people are cleaning their communities. They are helping to address the potential outbreak of diseases in their communities and stuff. After years of war, dead bodies, dogs, animals were all around, garbage had piled up. We have to clean the city. He took that initiative and he went to Self and other people, and they were giving people food, and the people were cleaning their communities. That's how he won that appointment to that position. We can do those same things today. We
But
can.
then I see why this guy got the job, because this guy now who is the mayor, he took upon himself, put a team together pre-inauguration, and went around cleaning. And Baka looked around and said, "Well, you just get a job to the man."
Yeah,
So
well,
that's
that's one way, but that's not
I think he took Daniel Johnson blueprint.
perhaps, but that is not sufficient, though. I mean, I don't know how well they're doing, but that is not enough to keep someone in a position. It's probably okay to say this man is interested in something, but after a while, what are you doing now? What are the creative measures that you are putting in place to make sure that that continues and even becomes better? I think that's what the question is. It's not just winning your path to a job, but your performance in the job also matters. And every day when you're in a position, start thinking, continue to think about creative ways by which you carry that job, so that you're not just spinning the wheels, doing the same thing over. What new thing can I do? How can we go to these communities? We clean the community, great. How can we then educate people or get the people to understand so that they're not throwing trash in the same drainage? So we're not cleaning that drainage every day, or so that we are cleaning that drainage only twice a month instead of every day. Those are the, how do we police it? How do we use community people to be, to protect their own communities? How do we enlist them into the process of protecting their own communities, because it's about themselves? I think those are creative ways and measures that our leaders need to start thinking about. Yeah.
Let's go to the last clip here from Nigeria, and it was interesting the way the guy.
Dr. Abiodun, thank you very much for the swimming pool. God will bless you. Next coming election, when I see vote for APC, the whole Nigeria go full of swimming pool. OTA, Owulele, ATS tell you, now wait till they give us with this swimming pool. Swimming pool, yo. Oh no, sir, APC for 2027. Anybody went power, vote for APC. When I say, some go area, Ogun State, for good 8 years. For good 8 years, yo. Now, waiting that Abiodun provide for the Ogun State with this, yo. Yes, yo. Now, swimming pool give us for Ogun State. Good 8 years, yo. Good now. APC for life. APC for life.
So I mean, he has some humor in it, but the truth is, this happening in Ogun State. There are many other clips out there, but this is alarming. And as we close tonight, Alfonso, we have a serious problem on our hands. And I think President Muhammad talked about the whole idea of attitude. We need to begin to change the attitude. We need to see what's in it for ourselves. The decency as a community, people who live in a specific locale need to begin, just like they have community chairmen, they need to have sanitation chairmen. And I'm making this suggestion because you can't just be a community chairman and you're there to resolve disputes and matters, but you need sanitation chairman, you need security chairman, Communities now must have to come together and formulate their own little substructure that can maintain, the environment, the cleanliness, the security, the dispute. People can just come and start surveying with a community chairperson is not involved, just to make sure that whatever the land that's about to be sold is within the right space and is for residential purpose or is for industrialization purpose, whatever that is. Government can't do everything. People who just come into these places, this is why I say some of the representatives, I don't even know what to say. If you are a representative and you only sit at the Capitol building, you probably 6 months later you meet with your people or you go to visit them, and you there for only 30 minutes. You go back to Morovia. How are you representing these people? And you tell me the three cardinal point of the lawmaker is to what? To what? What is it? Legislate?
Oversight,
Eh?
representation, oversight, and lawmaking.
And lawmaking. But where the other part, other parts rather that you supposed to be concerned about? How do you innovate within your constituency so that the people there can can have something to live with? You only come and collect the salaries, and then you lie, say, oh, the development fund, I didn't get it, and no redress, and people just pocketing things. But there's a way that we have to go about it. Everything can come from central government. You folks in the community who continue to cry, the government, the government, the government, you are your own problems. And until you begin to organize yourselves, as I said, community chairman, sanitation chairman, security chairman, making sure that everyone is in unison and working collaboratively for your communities. Don't just be in, wake up every day and cry government. You need to begin to take some actions that will provide the pathway for you to really put your communities, your cities aside from the rest. Start from there, and then government can say, "Oh, wait a minute, here's a prototype. We can emulate it. We can replicate it in other places." Things have to start from somewhere, and it begins with the very people who are affected. That's my closing thought.
And that's exactly what it is. We can blame government. When I first entered LU, Professor Doctor, what's his name, Elasanda Dunn was teaching this political science class, and he made a statement. He said every people deserves the government they get. And I said, no, professor, that's not true. I'm not arguing. Young man, not knowing much, argue with him and all of that. What if it's a military government and people force their way in power? He said that people still deserve the government again. And he explained. And he said, the people who run the government, who run these institutions, do not drop from anywhere else. They don't come from that. They are products of society. The things they do, the things they do are the things that society taught them, are the things that society encourages them to do. I'm saying this to say exactly the point you're making. We are the one who are throwing that in the streets. It's not government. Who is government? It's us. We throw it down in our community. We digging our communities with sand. The sand in our community that is serving as sifter. We are the one digging it from there to go build somewhere. And so there's nothing to sift the water, so the water is coming in our community. We are the one getting up in the night and going to the sunny wind drainage and throwing our household trash in it. We are the ones doing it. So individual responsibility, community responsibility, those are critical. You cannot go and clog your own drainage and you say that government to blame. Government doesn't even have other resources. Where does government even get resources? From the people, from the citizens, from taxes, from the resources that we collect. And we can't damage our own places, then we look to blame somebody else for it. So it's important to do community organizing. It's critical. It's important because if we allow Volcano to come to Painesville, Joe Bar, and start digging waters there, It is our homes
My
that will
man, I
also
keep
be.
telling you, I'm not from Joba. You keep
I know.
making. I'm from GSA Road. That's a different
Okay.
place
Well,
completely
no,
from
what I'm
that your
saying is,
Joba thing. I'm not from
so,
Joba.
so when you
Uh,
leave GSA Road and you come to
yeah.
our job bar and can't dig sand, we must stop you. We must protect our job bar. That's the point I'm making. We must say, no, you can't do this. When your neighbor is throwing garbage and stuff, tell them, no, you can't do that because your house will also get impacted tomorrow. I think we need to collectively protect our community. That's civic responsibility. That is civic duty. And democracies and governments and societies run on civic responsibility. And that's why we need to learn and inculcate into people. And that
And
will
not
be
just protecting your community, but protecting your community jealously. You
absolutely.
got to be jealous of your community because your community could serve as a trendsetter that
Yes.
other can emulate. But again, thank you so much, Alfonso. I thought it was a great conversation here tonight. Again, our topic here is um, why there's so much flooding going on in West Africa, especially in Liberia, Sierra Leone, Ghana, and Nigeria. We see a lot happening, and it's not going away. I just said that the rainy season, we customarily had our rainy season to end in October, but unfortunately, that's not the case now. It's going as far as in January, February. In fact, it's all year round. And some of the rain that can fall in January, be wondering where it came from.
Yep.
But that's the situation. Let me just quickly recognize some of the folks who were here tonight and say a big thank you to those folks who took out the business schedule, took off from the business schedule to be here and join us. Jamali Makture, welcome to the show. Thank you. Siru Abi Rach, if I have it right, welcome. Thank you for coming. Minimin Ajua Joseph, thank you for coming. Jonathan Jebo Saka Sr., thank you for coming. Victoria M.O. George also came here tonight. Thank you. Come again. Flomo Livingstone. Mohammed Kroman, thank you for coming in. Prince Nino, thank you. It was a pleasure having you here in the house with us tonight. Godwin Wiado, my man, it's been a long time. Thanks for coming. And to the rest of everyone, we can't call all the folks' name. We'll be back here next Tuesday, Alfonso and I. Hopefully, we will circle back with something of significance that is impacting our community, our country, the region, wherever that story will come from. We'll discuss the issue. Your closing word.
Thank you for Canada. Thanks to our visitors for coming. And as I always say, shows of this nature are extremely important in terms of moving our community forward. There are a lot of shows out there where it's about gossip. According to this source, where I cannot disclose or this, that, and making these things. I think the type of topics that are selected here are very critical. The type of conversation that takes place here, these things are needed by our community, and so, thank you very much, and I look forward to coming back on Tuesday. I want to thank our listeners and viewers. Again, share the program, and let's have an impact.
Thank you, everyone. Good night and have a good rest of your week. I'll be here on Thursday with the Volcano Shelton Show. Hopefully, you'll be here as well, and we can do this together as always. Maybe Alfonso could join me if he's free, because sometimes it's important. Let me just flash this last one by Flomo Livingston. The citizens themselves need to take responsibility too. Of course, it starts with them, not you know ordinarily. Good night, everyone.
Good night.